El Chico Eevee was able to data mine the next two Pokemon and their move sets. So they're gonna be some gameplay on the 30th. They're adding a test server, but I wanted to just go through these move sets, give it a little look, see what they're gonna be like. You watched it already? Well, let's go through it again. Next to Glaceon and Buzzwole, another attacker evolution. I don't know why they're not giving them different roles. Buzzwole is going to be an all-rounder, kind of makes sense for his look. All right, Glaceon, another special attacker. Probably going to be similar stats to Sylveon and Espeon. Buzzwole looks like it's going to be a bruiser for sure. Okay, the passives. When the Pokemon would be affected by a hindrance, the hindrance is negated and the Pokemon becomes invincible. So it's an even better passive than Espeon, where you're completely invincible, so no damage whenever you get CC'd. And then when it evolves, you become you start sneaking, so you become invisible and you get invincible for a short time. So this passive seems absolutely broken. So strong. They keep adding like these like unstoppables and invincibles. Basic attack comes boosted every X attacks. Increased damage and you get an ice crystal. Alright, of course Eevee's gonna have Swift. A little bit different than the other Swifts. So you create 4 stars around the user. Each time you hit an opposing Pokemon with a basic attack, one of the stars gets shot at the enemy. Okay, so a little bit different than the other Swifts. Can upgrade to Icicle Spear. Has the user launch all of its stored ice crystals in rapid succession at a designated opposing Pokemon. They have no ice crystals when the user's move. One will be created. Crystal Shatter when they hit the designated Pokemon, dealing damage in an area of effect. Launched ice crystals can hit the Pokemon on the opposing team that are not the designated target, so it'll hit whatever is the first target. If the ice crystals shatter on impact, they'll deal damage in an area of effect in the same way. Ice crystals launched by this move deal increasing damage each time they hit the same Pokemon. After this move is used, cooldown of Ice Shard or Freeze Dried is reduced. So I'm wondering if this is a skill shot or if it's a point and click ability. It might actually, if you have to use a skill shot, it might be a little bit harder to land. Yeah, there you could definitely do some crazy ice lanes with this, with Mamoswine and Ninetales, just insane freezing and damage. All right, when you get Ice Shard Plus, the Ice Crystals deal additional damage to opposing Pokemon equal to a percentage of the max health, so that's kind of huge. Going up against tanky characters, dealing percent health, could definitely make Glaceon a good pick for against like the Blissies, the Snorlaxes, Slowbros. The other option is Icy Wind. Has the user move a short distance in a designated direction, and its next basic attack launches all its stored ice crystals at an opposing Pokemon. So it sounds it's kind of like stored power or mystical fire on Sylveon. You get a little dash, and then you have your target Pokemon get hit. User then regains same number of ice crystals that is launched. Okay, that's interesting. So you can get them back. The user hits the same opposing Pokemon with one or more ice crystals. That Pokemon's movement speed is decreased for a short time. More ice crystals that hit that Pokemon, the stronger the movement speed decrease effect is. The user has no ice crystals when this move is used. The user gains 0 ice crystals, so you would just get a dash at that point, I guess. Okay, so all the evolutions are having like similar moves, but they're just slightly different. The upgrade is each launch ice crystal also deals additional damage equal to the max percentage of max HP. So, okay, so this damage ability, you're always going to have this percentage of max HP damage. So that's good either option. You get this this damage. Your next EV move is Tail Whip. Has the user wag its tail on opposing Pokemon, dealing damage, decreasing their defense and special defense and movement speed. Okay, so from what I can tell, this Glaceon's going to have a tough time last hitting early on. I feel like Espeon Swift is actually a decent last hitting tool. These Swift and Tail Whip are going to be tough. Next basic attack after use is a boosted auto. Okay, that's nice. It's a little bit better than nothing. Alright, Ice Shard increases the user's movement speed for a short time. Afterwards, the user's basic attack speed increases, and its basic attacks change into attacks that hurl chunks of ice. Okay, so that's kind of like Aurora Veil on Ninetales. You get a movement speed, and then you get boosted autos. Very, very similar. These chunks of ice deal damage to opposing Pokemon they hit and decrease their movement speed. Each time a chunk of ice hits, the user gains X ice crystals. User gains ice crystals if the move is used while launching ice crystals with Icicle Spear, or if after Icy Wind is used, but before it's launched all of its ice crystals with its next basic attack. Okay, so you can, build up your crystals with this move and then launch them with your other move with Icy Wind or Icicle Spear. This definitely seems like a setup move to deal huge damage with your other move. And the upgrade increases the user's basic attack speed for the duration of the move effect. Okay, that could be significant. And last, we got Freeze Dry. Increases the user's special attack for a short time and has the user shoot out a freezing burst of air in a forward direction. The burst of air explodes upon hitting an opposing Pokemon or after traveling a set distance, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect. For each opposing Pokemon hit by the explosion, you gain Ice Crystals. Also, leaves behind an Ice Zone. Opposing Pokemon that enter the zone will have their movement speed decreased. If they remain in the Ice Zone for a set amount of time, they become frozen. Okay, so it's kind of like a Sludge Bomb from Venusaur. You throw it out in an area, it's got a slow, but they could also be frozen. So that this could end up being like insane CC. If you land it right on a target, they're going to be slowed and then become frozen after a short time. You have insane CC potential with this move for sure. And then they upgrade. Opposing Pokemon hit by this move, you gain more Ice Crystals from it. Okay. That makes sense because the other option seems like you're going to gain way more ice crystals. If you're gaining one for each basic attack and you're boosting your attack speed, you're going to be getting way more crystals. So they're trying to even it out with the freeze dry. Unite move Glacial Stage has you user leap up high, creating an ice zone in front of it that deals damage in the area of effect. While the user is in the ice zone, its movement speed is increased and it gains ice crystals whenever a set amount of time passes. Movement speed of opposing Pokemon in the zone is decreased. Okay, so this is kind of like a big Aurora Veil, gives you a big area that you deal damage and you're gaining movement speed and extra crystals. So you're going to definitely want to fight on top of this. Uh, it'll be good for like the last fight at Zap Pit. Just throw it down, get a bunch of ice crystals, really ramp up your Icicle Crash and Icy Wind damage. And I'm assuming you're becoming unstoppable or untargetable while you're leaping, just like the other evolutions. Okay, over to Buzzwole. Beast Boost. When this Pokemon knocks out or assists in knocking out a Pokemon, its movement speed and basic attack speed increase for a short time. Each time the Pokemon hits opposing Pokemon with basic attack or certain moves, its muscle gauge charges. Conversely, when the Pokemon is not in combat, its muscle gauge depletes over a set amount of time. Okay, so you're kind of like Serena with the bar. You like build it up and it'll charge up your abilities and your basic attacks. But unlike Serena, it'll go down if you're not in battle. Basic attack, each time a basic attack hits, you get a muscle gauge charge. Come a boosted auto attack every third attack, and you throw 2 consecutive punches while restoring the user's HP. Okay, so you're getting lifesteal on your boosted autos even. Depending on how much, that could be a lot. That could be huge. Good for sustaining in lane. Okay, Mega Punch's first ability Has a user move in the designated direction, slamming the ground with a powerful punch. Okay, it sounds kind of like dynamic punch from a champ. The shock from the punch deals damage in an area of effect. If you hit the Pokemon from the opposing team, you get a muscle gauge increased by 1 for each one that was hit. That could upgrade to lunge. Has user lunge in the designated direction, dealing damage to the opposing Pokemon, decreasing their attack for a short time. If you hit a Pokemon from the opposing team, you get a muscle gauge for each one that was hit. After the user's moved, user's basic attack speed increased for a short time. Maximum of X uses can be kept in reserve for this move. And then when it's upgraded, whenever this move hits a Pokemon from the opposing team, the user's attack increases for a short time. More Pokemon from the opposing team are hit, more the user attacks increases. Okay, so this definitely seems like it could be a good engage or retreat move, depending on the range on it. And it looks like you have, possible like using it multiple times, have, use up your gauge in order to use this move more rapidly. Other upgrade is Smackdown. Has a user to live an uppercut punch to opposing Pokemon, dealing damage and throwing it in the air. Okay, so we got a knock up. While thrown, the Pokemon is airborne. The user can use this move again to perform a follow-up attack that smacks that Pokemon back down to the ground, dealing damage to all Pokemon in an area of effect centered around the Smackdown Pokemon. Okay, so I'm wondering how long you're going to be knocking them up for that. You have time to hit the move a second time. If the user does not follow up on the initial uppercut attack, the opposing Pokemon will fall to the ground on its own. Damage will still be dealt to opposing Pokemon in an area of effect centered on the point of impact. This move deals damage to the Pokemon on the opposing team. You gain muscle gauge. Okay. And the upgrade widens the area of effect in which damage is dealt. When the opposing Pokemon targeted by this move hits the ground, the user's muscle gauge will now increase by X increments for each Pokemon on the opposing team that takes damage from this move. Okay, so you get more muscle gauge stacks. That's good, boosting your damage and your attack speed even more. Okay, your other basic move is Fell Stinger. You consume the entire muscle gauge to deal damage to opposing Pokemon in a designated direction. This move deals more damage and more muscle gauge increments are consumed. This move knocks out an opposing Pokemon. User recovers HP. Okay, so another dashing ability. Buzzwole is definitely going to be able to move around for sure. Going to have decent mobility. That upgrades to Leech Life. Has user grab and restrain an opposing Pokemon in a designated direction, dealing damage over time while restoring the user's HP. When this move is used, it consumes their entire muscle gauge. The number of hits and the amount of damage dealt per hit increases the more muscle gauge increments are consumed. Move ends if the user becomes unable to act for any reason or if the restrained Pokemon escapes. You can eject button or through some other means. Wow. So I'm wondering, again, like this could last for a long time. You could be holding somebody for quite a while, restoring a lot of HP. Very interesting. The upgrade also causes each instant of damage dealt by this move to be stronger than the last. Okay. Very interesting move. I'm interested to see how many stacks you can get on the gauge, and how much damage you could really ramp these moves up with. Or if it'll be limited to how many gauge stacks you can get. Okay, the other option is Superpower. Okay, so this one also consumes your entire gauge. Has user run in a designated direction and grab an opposing Pokemon. User then slams them to the ground, dealing damage in an area of effect. Damage dealt by this move and the shield effect it grants. So you also get a shield. Increases the more muscle gauge increments are consumed. In the upgrade, you reset the cooldown of this move when the user's muscle gauge reaches its maximum. Okay. So another where you're grabbing the opposing Pokemon, plus you're getting a shield. Overall, he seems like every move has a lot of movement. Could be a lot of fun to play. And the Unite move, Ultra Swole Slam, has you use or fly at high speed, dealing damage to all opposing Pokemon in an area of effect. Afterward, the user targets the opposing Pokemon with the lowest percentage of HP among those hit and charges at it down from the sky, dealing damage once again. Okay, so you're dealing double damage to one target, plus another movement ability. I wonder how big the area of effect's gonna be, if it'll be in a big line or a big circle. Uh, this could be like a huge move for disrupting the enemy team, really targeting and burning a certain enemy down. Kind of insane kit, if you ask me. All right, so that looks like it. I mean, overall, Glaceon could be interesting. I think it'll really depend on how many of those the ice stacks you can get, how quickly you can get them, and then throw them at the enemy with your one ability. I mean, it's going to be similar to the other attackers. I think also it'll depend on if it's skill shots or if it's point and click. If it's point and click, that'll make it a lot easier. But I think the CC and damage potential of Glaceon's interesting. But this Buzzwole looks absolutely insane. Like, he's gonna have so much mobility, and you're gonna be able to single out targets. I think he's just gonna be an improved Machamp, really. Just insane damage. It'll depend again on, I think, the muscle gauge. How many stacks you can build up, how quickly. But I'm really looking forward to seeing gameplay of this. June 30th, they're adding the test server, so we're gonna get to see some gameplay of these. Uh, we'll see then what sort of numbers, how they stack up, what kind of damage they can do. But I'm looking forward to both these characters. Uh, hopefully they